The Venator-class Star Destroyer wasn't just another Republic capital ship. It was a fighter carrier, a command vessel, a troop transport, and a planetary assault platform, all built into a single kilometer-long hull. And unlike the Imperial Star Destroyer that replaced it, the Venator was actually designed to fight a real war. In this video, we will break down why the Venator-class Star Destroyer was the perfect warship for the Clone Wars, examining its size, specs, speed, firepower, and battle history, and see why many fans and in-universe tacticians consider it to be one of, if not the greatest capital ship ever built. The Clone Wars were unlike any conflict that the galaxy had ever seen. This wasn't a slow-moving war of borders and front lines. It was galaxy-spanning, highly mobile, defined by sudden invasions, ambushes, and sieges, and dominated by starfighters, not just capital ships. The Republic wasn't fighting a centralized navy. It was fighting a decentralized, droid-controlled war machine that could strike thousands of systems simultaneously. So the Republic needed a ship that could respond rapidly, control space and atmosphere, deploy troops immediately, operate independently, and adapt mid-battle. The Venator wasn't a compromise, it was a solution. The Venator was big, measuring over 1,137 meters in length. It had a ton of armor, heavy reactor shields, multiple hangars, and command decks. To put that in perspective, this was nearly 4 modern aircraft carriers long end to end. It was larger than most separatist capital ships, and it's capable of carrying entire clone formations, vehicles, and aircrafts. But unlike the later seen Imperial Star Destroyer, the Venator didn't waste space on intimidation. Its long, streamlined hull allowed for enormous internal hangar capacity, long reactor spines for sustainability energy output, and dense, efficient internal layouts. The Venator wasn't bulky. It was purposely massive, and every meter served an important role throughout combat. Despite being such a big ship, the Venator was super fast. It can reach speeds of 606 miles per hour or 975 kilometers per hour. While its sublight speed is often seen to be around 20 mglt, which stands for Measured Galactic Distance Light Years, and this is extremely fast, especially for the size of this ship. For performance, it was more responsive than the later Imperial Star Destroyers, had much faster acceleration and turning in combat, and it was able to respond quickly in orbit. And that's thanks to its powerful, widely spaced ion engines, its extremely balanced geometry, and advanced stabilization systems. The Venator could pitch and yaw faster than heavier destroyers, maintain orientation during mass fighter launches, and track multiple enemy vectors at once. In battle, it was defined by fighter swarms and chaotic engagements that mattered. And all of that was necessary since the Clone Wars were defined by fighter swarms and chaotic engagements. So it's safe to say that speed wasn't a luxury, it was a matter of survival. Strategically, the Venator was a nightmare for the Separatists. It featured high-output hyperdrives, advanced navi-computers, redundant astromech integration, and it allowed Republic fleets to respond to crises across the galaxy, launch surprise strikes deep into the enemy territory, and maintain pressure on multiple fronts. One Venator could jump in, secure orbit, deploy fighters, troops, and hold systems without needing a massive escort fleet. The level of independence on this scale was rare and incredibly dangerous to the enemy. One singular Venator could win an entire battle. This ship could carry over 400 starfighters that included V-19 Torrents, ARC-170s, Jedi Interceptors, and later on the V-Wing. The iconic red striped doors, also known as the dual forward flight decks, weren't cosmetic. They had a purpose besides looking really good. They simultaneously launched and recovered ships, entire squadrons could deploy in seconds, and this allowed for immediate space control at the start of any battle. While enemy ships were still forming lines, the Venator had already flooded the battlefield with its fighters. And in the Clone Wars, that alone often decided the fight before the capital weapons even fired. And speaking of firepower, the Venator carried heavy turbolasers, medium turbolasers, and point defense cannon. But unlike the Imperial Star Destroyer, it wasn't built around simply overwhelming with brute force. Its weapons were designed to support starfighters, engage multiple capital ships, provide orbital bombardment, and defend against bomber swarms. The Venator relied on combined arms warfare. Fighters stripped shields, bombers disabled systems, and turbolasers delivered finishing blows. It didn't waste power on intimidation, it was extremely efficient. While the offense is a lot of fun to talk about, we need to pay attention to its defense. Rather than relying on the thick armor alone, the Venator used its strong deflector shields, extensive point defense coverage, and starfighters as its primary defensive screen. Enemy bombers were intercepted long before reaching the hull, and the shields were preserved for the critical moments. This layered approach made the Venator far more survivable than its raw armor suggested. But this wasn't just a ship for space combat, it was a mobile invasion platform that could carry over 7,000 clone troopers, ATTE walkers, LAAT gunships, also known as your Republic gunships, and heavy armor and artillery. Internally, it was optimized for speed with barracks near hangars, direct deployment routes, and minimal delay from orbit to ground combat. A Venator could secure orbit, deploy troops, support ground forces, and hold a system all on its own. And it proved that by its combat history. It didn't earn its reputation on paper, it earned it throughout the battles. The First Battle of Geonosis, the Venators arrived in mass. It established a medial orbital dominance and supported one of the largest invasions in the galactic history. The battle proved the Venator could control space, deploy massive ground forces, and sustain a full campaign. The Battle of Coruscant was a surprise assault by the Separatists. It had dense orbital traffic and civilian infrastructure, and Venators launched fighters instantaneously. This showcased a rapid speed response capability, maneuverability under pressure, and effectiveness under the Jedi command. Even in chaos, the Venator would hold its own. The legend himself, Anakin Skywalker, had his own flagship Venator, known as the Resolute, and this was full of aggressive tactics, constant fighter deployment, and improvisational warfare. This ship didn't restrict bold commanders, it amplified them. And I think it's funny how easy it is to tell that this was Anakin's ship, being with the style of fighting that this Venator in particular had. You can often see a lot of that in Anakin himself. And an interesting perspective is looking at how an Imperial Star Destroyer could be seen as a downgrade from the Venator. The Empire traded the flexibility for intimidation, fighters for raw firepower, and adaptability for fear. The Rebels exploited those weaknesses constantly. Ironically, Rebel doctrine resembled Venator-era strategy far more than the Imperial thinking ever did. So to sum it all up, the Venator is a perfect ship. It had size, it was very agile, it had a massive capacity to hold troops and other starfighters, it could deploy troops, and it had a proven battle history. The Venator wouldn't just help you in fights, it would win them for you. So I want to hear all of your thoughts on the Venator in the comments below. And what did you think about this ship? Is it one of your favorites? Is it your favorite? And don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more content around the galaxies, and I will see you in the next one.